Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Division Z podcast. My name is Jason.
And I'm K Cosmic.
My friend, is Vanguard Zombies good now?
I mean, a week ago, before the trailers came out, I don't think we would be saying this, but surprisingly enough, when you make something round based and when you fix the issues that the community have highlighted, it turns out it's actually okay. It's not bad.
I mean, the thing is, right? Shi No Numa obviously came out over the last week for Vanguard Zombies. Round-based, the first round-based map in Vanguard Zombies. And, damn, man, it's, it feels good to say we're back to round-based after after the flops for the community that were Duran Fong and Terra Maledicta. But, you know, it just happens sometimes, right? Yeah. Anyways, man, I think a lot of people are really enjoying Shi No Numa. I'm happy to see good fan reception, and it's good.
Even though it's like, you know, Shi No Numa, right? It's the third zombie map to come out, and we've seen it so many times already. I don't know, something about it being in Vanguard as a round-based map just feels right. You know, I don't know exactly what it is, but I hear a lot of people saying it's their favorite version of Shi No Numa, and that's right. Yeah, it has like actual Easter eggs in it. You know, has a quest to get the Wonder Waff. There's so many new things in it as well. Yeah, because I said this from the start with Vanguard Zombies, where I never thought the way the game felt was a problem. I thought the game felt pretty solid. I know there's a few issues with the zombies and like training them up and stuff.
Right.
The more issues were like other underlining stuff, like the actual game modes themselves, the connecting. The internet stuff where you lag on solo, that's kind of annoying. Obviously, couldn't pause for ages.
Dude, I can't believe that was still a thing. Annoying. You know, I still can't believe that was such a problem for a long time. Nobody could pause. Yeah,
I know. And now we're finally at a point where a zombie map's come out. It's round based. There's not been too many glitches, and you know it's playable. Which is good, honestly. Like, it's good that Vanguard has a win, and this gives us a reason for in the future to come back to Vanguard and play it. It's just a shame we couldn't have gotten this sooner, and that's my one thing before we go deeper into the map and talking about like Easter egg and stuff. Is if it was like this from the start, even if it was just small little round-based maps, even if it was like like remakes and expansions like they've done with it with the new dig site here. Like, let's say they took the World at War maps and had Nectar and Toten a little bit here. Baruch a little bit there, right? That sort of format instead. People still would have complained that you're just reusing assets, even though they're not really, right? But I'm glad to see that we have actually something decent. It's just a shame it could have came sooner.
Yeah, man, I would agree with that. I think so many people right now are just not playing Vanguard Zombies to begin with because of what happened before with the previous two maps. That, you know, the people who are playing it right now are also getting like flack for it too, that I've noticed a lot.
It's like a lot. I've seen that. Like
people are getting such shit on right now on like Twitter and like YouTube comments that are like,
bro, you're playing Vanguard Zombies.
Exactly.
You're playing Vanguard Zombies. Vanguard Zombies is the worst, remember? Why are you playing Vanguard Zombies?
See, that's the thing that's just the funniest thing to me, man, where you gotta give everything a chance. You know, like we're in this community to play the game and to give our opinion about it. Now, as disheartening as it was to play the game on multiple occasions, and I've denounced Vanguard on multiple occasions because it's still not the greatest game ever. They're still very broken, still not a good game at all. But I'm going to relish in the fact that we have a victory for Vanguard Zombies and just a victory for Vanguard in general, because the map itself is good. I think it's a pretty good map. It's definitely one of the better versions of Shi No Numa because it has an Easter egg, because it has some side stuff. And now I know some of the side Easter eggs are taken from like previous iterations of Shi No Numa, right? Like Zombies Chronicles and all that, right? But the main point is here that this has a main Easter egg. This has like a weapon build quest. This has some interesting features. So what I think we can take from Shi No Numa here is that this is the best part of Vanguard, not just Zombies, but the best part of Vanguard in general. And you know, it still doesn't take away from the core fundamental of Vanguard is broken. Like the core, you know, the servers, the latency, the packet burst, Dover Beal, the way the zombies work and how you like glue, like you get stuck to zombies when you get too close to them, like your auto aim, like stuck, that's broken. And you know, just other broken enemies like the Sturmkrieger, and like, you know, the fundamentals of the game itself are still broken. But at the same time, I can acknowledge that the map itself is fun to play. Just shooting zombies. Just shooting zombies and having fun with different weapons. The Easter egg is, you know, it's a little bit challenging on one of the steps, but besides that, it's not too bad. I did it on day one. It was not bad.
I think with this Easter egg, it's has some of that old-fashioned like challenge to it, where you know you have to do puzzles and you know you have to actually use your brain compared to something like Cold War, where obviously, like, you know, there's still some steps that are a bit complicated, like for example the mimic step in Fire PC, as we both know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's nice that they've kind of gone back to that formula a little with the Easter egg here. Because I think the Easter egg was good. Like you're saying with the enemy types, they're kind of annoying still, and I think that's just down to the fact that before round based, they had these other enemy types in mind for this, you know, their challenge.
Yeah,
and that could partially be a reason why they're like that.
Oh,
that,
for sure.
Or they were, you know, they just thought they were fun enemies. I don't know. They're kind of annoying. But I mean, yeah, it's the Easter egg's good. I think obviously the layout of the map is fine because it's Shi No Numa. What do you think of the new area? Do you think obviously it's not?
You know, I think it adds. I think it adds a good little bit to the map because now you have a different route. You have some different places to go. We got some different places to explore. Maybe you can do a little bit of hoarding up over there because you got that pit in the middle there. It's kind of small, but you can kind of hoard up zombies decently over there. And of course, that's where the main Easter egg boss fight is, which, you know, I guess we'll just talk about the Easter egg now, where, you know, what's interesting about this is they don't really hold your hand on this one either. No, like, they just kind of, they give you the hints. They give you just enough hints, like with the characters talking and whatever, so that, you know, you can figure it out, but they don't give it to you like, here's the objective marker and you go here, you know, which I think that's definitely a direct answer from what everyone was talking about with Cold War, where everyone in Cold War was saying, oh, well, this holds your hand and this isn't good. And, you know, so I think that's a direct response to that. And the Easter egg itself and the story implications, I cannot believe that I'm saying this, right? And I couldn't believe it when you first told me.
Brother. Say it,
Chaos
brother.
is canon.
Dead of the Night is canon. Dead of the Night is canon. Voyage of the Spirit, it's canon.
So this means Duran Fong and Terra Maledicta are also Chaos maps.
Bruh. or does it mean that Chaos are Dark Ether maps?
True. Yeah, Ancient Evil is my favorite Dark Ether map, guys.
I love Ancient Evil. It's the best Dark Ether map of all time.
But bro, Chaos is back. How crazy is that?
And here's the thing, right? I think two things happen here. One, they planned this from the start of doing Chaos or whatever, right? But they probably didn't, let's be honest, because there's so many maps cancelled. Two, they seen a point where they had this unfinished story and they're like, okay, we're kind of in a new universe now. I don't think it's too bad if we just combine them together since Ether is finished, because technically Ether, you know, it's you know, it's its own thing, in its own bubble, right? Like it doesn't really, you know what I mean?
Technically.
So technically, if we're just like looking at a base surface, not diving deep into like, you know, Juggernog and all that being in Dark Ether story and all that, because Dark Ether and Ether are obviously connected, but I don't think that necessarily means that Chaos and Ether have to be connected. That Chaos and Dark Ether could be connected. I know there's a bunch of implications there. I know it's very stupid. I know it's like, you know, like what the hell.
Well, what's interesting about that, man, is like with the fact that Ether and Dark Ether are connected with Juggernog, the Manglers, and like other enemy types that come back, like the Hellhounds and you know, the zombies themselves. The thing that's interesting about that though is like that's kind of acknowledging that it comes from a different dimension, where Ether, everything that was in the Ether is now in the Dark Ether, and so that's a reality that should be closed off, that's not closed off. And so with everything that's happening in the Ether, and then now with Chaos, you know, does this mean that entities and mythology and all the gods from like different civilizations and things like that, would that mean that after Ether was finished and after Ether was closed off, that created mythology, right? That created all these fantastical monsters and beings, and you know, it made it so that the real world is the real world, and now everything in the dark ether is like mythology and whatever, right? Because
Yeah.
keeping in mind that I forgot who exactly said this. I think it was COD Lore Facts on Twitter or something like that. They got a good Twitter account for mentioning facts about the lore, where the Norsemen thought Nordicus was one of their gods. And so, like, all this mythology and things like that's kind of already tied into the Dark Ether storyline, just like how mythology was heavily tied into the Chaos storyline. So I think I think it's fantastic that this could be a really creative way to really tie that all in, you know?
And potentially finish off Chaos, or even get to a point where we can continue with Chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the thing is, right, I don't know how it would work, right? Because it's very complicated. The Chaos crew, if they were going to be playable again, it would be the case that it'd be through radios and stuff again.
Right.
But even with that, it's like they're in a completely different time period. You know, like when this Chaos actually it takes place during World War One.
Yeah, so Chaos is mainly during like the 1910s and World War One kind of time, right? And
so even further back to Vanguard, like previous Vanguard.
But I mean, that's not that far off though. That's you're talking about like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of so with Dark Ether and Vanguard. So Vanguard would be the sequel to Chaos in a way. So with all the prima materia and the Sentinel artifact and all that, when the Wahrheit and the German researchers with von List and things like that discovering all these artifacts and discovering all this stuff, you could make the argument that they're just picking up where the Order left off, basically, and where the Order was trying to figure out and find all the Sentinel artifacts and figure out what the Sentinel artifacts could all do. And now I've seen a lot of people say, oh no, we didn't get a Sentinel artifact in Shi No Numa, but come on. Like, look at the mirror. Look at it. It's literally the shape of Sentinel artifact. So I think this Sentinel artifact has some sort of specific power that could be utilized, and it should be utilized because what Gabriel Kraft was talking about, where this artifact is supposed to help separate deities from their host and like from the artifact and things like that. So this is a Sentinel artifact with some sort of special power. This is some sort of... It's not just a Sentinel artifact that turns people into zombies. This has some sort of special power. And like Kraft talked about, Alistair Rhodes being a amateur demonologist and all that, right? And how he tried to study all the Sentinel artifacts, which I guess is kind of a retcon too, if you think about it, because Alistair Rhodes was a renowned archaeologist back in the, what we knew from Chaos. So either this is just a retcon and it's kind of like oh no, he was this all along, guys, don't worry, which is kind of weird if they did that, but at the same time, maybe he could be like a mythological archaeologist. He could be, unearthing artifacts that have to do with demons and have to do with all of that. Like, either way, I'm kind of curious to see how they tie all of that in. But then I've also seen people say, oh, well, Chaos is, completely separate, and this universe is Alistair Rhodes, and it's like this whole multiverse, whatever, which is like, I don't know about that one. But long story short, to make my ramblings actually cohesive and to a point, there's so much they can do with this. And there's so many tie-ins they can have with the Order, with Scarlet and Diego and all the characters, and hopefully give them a little bit more depth with Dark Ether, and hopefully give Chaos a little bit more of a stable ground to stand on right now, because we don't have a lot for Chaos. And if they're able to do this in a coherent way, then I'm all for it. But my message to Treyarch would be, don't force it.
No, focus on this new story, and then if it feels right to add them in at some point or reference them, go ahead for it. If not, don't, because in the nicest way, I think people will be able to tell. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like,
no, absolutely.
They start trying to like force it in. My question would be, how early on do you think they planned this bombshell? A quote. Do you think they planned it like? Do you think after Black Ops 4 ended, they thought, okay, no more Chaos, or do you think they thought, okay, how do we bring this back in our new universe so it wasn't all wasted?
That's
because
a tough question.
it's an interesting thing to think about, right?
Of
Because
course.
like even thinking about Cold War, right? Like, were they thinking about it during Cold War? Were they thinking about the fact the community says that all these maps are good, but they lack like flavor, personality, and they, and then they reflected back to what's it, Chaos, and thought, oh,
Mhm.
well, that had a bit of personality in it. People might not have liked it as much because of the new story and the
Mm.
characters and stuff, but I think one thing it wasn't lacking was personality. Did they reflecting back on that because they could use it?
Yeah.
What?
See
Like,
that
it's
here's
so
the
hard
thing
to
about that.
pinpoint when, yeah,
The thing about that is I think when it comes to what they're thinking of doing with all of this, I think they did something kind of tricky here where they kind of laid out the groundwork for an opening to have chaos come back in a way, because you have Dark Aether mythology, you have this Dark Aether lore, and the old ones and the ancient gods and things like that. Where, of course, in the Chaos storyline, the perks by themselves, the perk machines were gods with Danu, Ra, Odin, and Zeus. So
yeah,
there's already kind of a connection there. I know some people will be like, well, causation doesn't equal correlation, right? And it's like, okay, but when you see all this line up and you see the fact that this is kind of an opening for them to introduce something like that, where the Forsaken is basically a Dark Ether god, Zykov became a god
yeah.
and killed other gods, basically. And that's confirmed from intel and things like that. And those gods are obviously going to be Nordicus and Victor, Belikar, and all the ones we've been used to, right? So I think there's an opening for them to always do that, but I don't think that was their original plan per se, because I
Yeah.
think with the Dark Ether storyline, they definitely needed to establish more of that Dark Ether lore and to be like, okay, these are Dark Ether demons, and this is what happened before the Forsaken showed up, and this is what, this is like the hierarchy of the land. And then it'll help us explain why we are where we are in Die Machina, and then, of
Mhm.
course, leading up to Forsaken. But I think when it comes to just writing the story, I think Chaos was always maybe considered, because even though Jason Blundell is gone, Craig Houston's still there, and Craig Houston
Yeah.
helped Jason Blundell write Chaos. Now, although
Yeah.
Chaos might be Jason Blundell's like treasure
Child.
here, right? Like this
Yeah.
is, a lot of people attribute Chaos to just Jason Blundell himself. Craig Houston is still the lead writer. Jason Blundell, although it might be his original story, Craig Houston's still the writer who knows
Yeah.
about Jason's vision and knows about, Chaos, and still has all that information in the back of his mind. So I don't think they wanted to necessarily give up on Chaos, but at the same time, I think they needed to find a more natural way to implement it in, and they needed to
Yeah.
find more of a way to say, okay, well, Ether is over, and now that's
Yeah.
all tucked away. And because Ether went into the Dark Ether and created basically a new reality for everybody, right? Because the reality we currently live in with the Black Ops Cold War storyline and the Vanguard Zombie storyline, nothing in Ether happened. No Drak, no Shadows of Evil, none of that ever happened.
No last gen Rick Choffin.
So,
No nothing.
yeah, exactly. So you could make the argument too that, yeah, Chaos and Ether are separate because it's a new reality that was created.
Mm.
And it could be the fact of the matter that Dark Ether is Chaos because of that fact that Ether is now banished to a different alternate dark dimension. So
Yeah.
I feel like that could be one thing. That could be one thing where they maybe had plans for it in the back of their mind, and they were always waiting for some little way to implement it in. They were always waiting for some little, okay, now let's ease it into the story a little bit now.
Yeah.
Or thought number two, they're like, shit, nobody likes this game. What do we
Okay.
do? What do we do to make people
they're
like this game?
they're at a table.
Let's,
They're
yeah.
at a big conference table. All right, guys. Vanguard isn't doing too hot. Okay. They don't like Duran Fang. They don't like the middle one that I can't remember the name of. But we need to do something new. We need to do something old. We need to bring back old maps that they like, but we need more. What do we do? The guy in the back, the janitor, right? The janitor's just cleaning. Like you could add, you could bring Chaos back. You could make that canon. I'm sure there's people that would like that. And then he got promoted to president of the company. Chaos
Ah,
came back, and
there you
then the
go.
community is, because I mean, whether you like it or hate it, right? Whether you like Chaos or hate Chaos, it's definitely so interesting to think that now it's technically canon in the universe.
Right.
After they were so hell bent on making it like, no, it's not going to be canon.
But see, that's the thing though, right? It is separate from Ether, but
obviously,
they never claimed it was separate from Dark Ether because
obviously, right? That wasn't a thing, right? But I think people just had it in their heads that, like, in general, it just wouldn't come back, especially after it ending so soon and so suddenly. We know the leaks, we know like the info that, are they true or not? It's up to you to decide.
Maybe not. But we still covered it in an episode of the podcast, by the way, which you can go back and watch.
Oh yes, because there's many episodes of the podcast with very interesting information.
Some in-depth information, of course.
Exclusive. Not really.
True, actually. We have had some exclusives on this channel before. I mean,
that is true.
If you guys want to check out, speaking of Vanguard, if you guys want to check out the exclusive interview we did with Kaiser Johnson, the voice of Von List in Vanguard Zombies, that'll be on the channel and link down below in the description. So have a little bit of insight there as to creating the character, but I digress. Shameless plug here, but it's not shameless because this is our own channell. God damn it, this is the Vision Z. I can plug our own channel on our channel. Keep talking. What are you saying?
What was I saying? Yeah, no, exactly right. So again, I think people just thought it would never come back because, first of all, they said it would never be connected to Ether. Obviously, this is Dark Ether, and Dark Ether and Ether technically don't have much connection, but they do at the same time. It's a weird, like, gray area. What's like, you know what I mean? And I think also as well, people just weren't expecting it to come back because obviously at the time, Chaos didn't have much interest. Whether you love or hate Chaos right now, I don't think it's a lie to say that Chaos had like zero interest when it came out. Was that down to marketing? Probably. The other night, trailer came out on the same day of the map. Was it down to Ether being in the game still? Yeah, because people still loved Ether and they didn't finish up the story of that. And people were just waiting for that. A more reasonable thing might have been to finish Ether, then do Chaos and Cold War, or do the second year that they were planning on doing. But who might say? So that's why I feel like people, it's a bigger shock because no one was expecting it to come back. Like the Transit Crew, no one expected the Transit Crew to come back, right? I don't think we're so much shocked. I think we're just like, oh, okay.
I mean, the thing is, I think more people expected the Transit Crew to come back than they expected to have Chaos come back because Victus was always on ice underneath Alcatraz. So
well, there you go. So that's exactly right. So technically, they were always like something that could be pulled out. But Chaos is like, we just thought that was like done. That was like never coming back, like Extinction. Right? We just thought it was like done, finished. Oh, Beast from Beyond, but we don't talk about that map.
We don't talk about that map.
We don't talk about that map. Or Exo Zombies, right? I mean, that's gonna be the next thing. Canon.
Yeah, right, dude. Ayo,
Exo Zombies canon,
dude. I can't wait to see fucking Nordicus the Conqueror with a fucking jetpack flying around in the next iteration. Vanguard 2.
Vanguard 2 exosuits. Man,
oh jeez.
I often think to myself, right? This is a bit off topic. Do you reckon? Obviously, Sledgehammer made World War II and Advanced Warfare, right?
Right.
I don't think they ever commented on it, but you wouldn't ever think because they're like 100. There's like 150 years apart. But do you think? Do you think possibly World War II and Advanced Warfare canonly could have been in the same universe? Because we know World War II isn't canon because Vanguard's canon. They just were like, honestly, I would have preferred World War II as canon, but we don't talk about that, right? I think at least, right? I don't think, but like Exo Zombies, do you think they had a plan to expand on their universe and like have their World War II Exo Zombies and then a middle Zombies?
Probably.
Like a modern first person shooter?
Like I don't, the thing is about that where that could probably be a thing that was planned, but at the same time, I feel like Treyarch kind of has the crown there when it comes to cross storylines, when it comes to their zombies modes. And I mean, it could be a possibility, but there's just not enough like evidence and there's not enough.
Do you want to know something?
What?
I reckon originally Cold War was going to be canon to Exo Zombies. Because obviously Sledgehammer were making it, right? And they're making their own zombies game mode. I reckon originally Cold War was supposed to have tie-ins to World War II. And maybe not references directly to Advanced Warfare, because obviously it hasn't happened yet. So can't do that. But I reckon, hear me out here. Advanced Warfare Exo Zombies would have still been in the story if it wasn't for Treyarch coming along and stealing their idea.
stealing their idea.
What
do you mean stealing their idea? Yo, Treyarch had to come in and save them. What do you mean?
They had everything planned out. They were doing fine.
Bro, Treyarch literally took control of COD 2020 from Sledgehammer.
On another note, right? In all seriousness, I think it's worth talking about how burnt out must Treyarch be?
Dude, like, Treyarch is the most overworked studio right now under the Activision umbrella. Cold War, Vanguard Zombies, Vanguard Ranked Play. They're also working on Modern Warfare 2. They're also helping out with Warzone. Like, they're so stretched thin. They're working on their own game for 2024.
They're also working on their own game mode as well. And other game for what's it? Because they're doing a free to play, I think, as well, aren't they?
That's the rumor. That's the rumor. Right? But we don't know yet.
It's true. Imagine if that's true. They're working across like
6 or 7 different things, dude. Treyarch, y'all are a bunch of beasts right now. I mean, it's crazy. It's really crazy. Now, I'm gonna sound like DK Dynamite here. Call me a Cold War shill or a Treyarch shill here, but you know, Treyarch is doing great right now. Well, doing great in the sense of, you know, they're busting their ass trying to do as many things as possible for Activision. I know, you know, subjectively you could say that, oh, this isn't good, whatever, but like they're really putting in a lot of work now for Activision. And it's like Infinity Ward, they got their hands full with Modern Warfare 2 right now. That's coming out the end of the year. They got Warzone 2 coming out and all that too. But I know it's mainly going to be like a Raven thing. But
yeah.
And then you have Sledgehammer right now, which I've said this on the podcast before. What the hell's going on? Right? Like what is happening? They've expanded their studios to several different locations, like in the Midwest, Canada, Australia. Like they're opening a bunch of studios. At least I think they're opening studios in Australia. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But like, and then what's going on with Vanguard? Like they open up all these studios. They have to hire so many more people. All this manpower. Like what's happening with them right now? And I'm just very confused. I'm not saying this to diss them or anything, because it might sound like I'm dissing them, but I'm genuinely just confused. I'm genuinely just confused as what's like happening here. But anyways, I digress with that. With Vanguard Zombies, we're glad that Shi No Numa is good. We are so glad that Shi No Numa is actually good. Vanguard in itself is still fundamentally broken still, but you know what? It just happens sometimes. Dude, the other day on stream, shout out to B-Rad the man, was trying to play some freaking Shi No Numa with him, trying to do the Easter egg with him, and I disconnected 3 times from the servers. So
let's freaking go.
Like, I really don't understand what the hell is happening there with the servers still and just lagging, and it's always a mess. But like by itself, Shi No Numa Reborn, I guess we can call it, or just Shi No Numa, Vanguard Shi No Numa.
Shi No Numa.
If you put it in Cold War, I think it would be infinitely better, just because Cold War systems are better than Vanguard systems, in my opinion. So I think with Shi No Numa and Vanguard, the way it is right now, yeah, it's good. It could be better in Cold War, but the fact of the matter is that I'm even bringing up Cold War makes it that, like, I'm putting it in league with something that's from Cold War. That's a good sign. You know?
Absolutely.
Like, right? I want to,
I could definitely see like Shi No Numa, that version that's on Vanguard, as like a survival map in Cold War, right? 100%. Because the games obviously have a few similar mechanics, but like I could definitely see that. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's a shame it wasn't done sooner, but for what it is, it's really well done. Definitely my favorite version of Shi No Numa by far. I don't think World at War versions, whatever.
Right.
It's fine. Black Ops 1 again, it's fine. Black Ops 3 is, it's good, but like it's probably my least favorite out of the Chronicle maps. But then this Vanguard actually like does a lot for it. Don't get me wrong, this was Black Ops 4 times, the community would be like, oh my god, this is awful. Like, because it's different mindset back then, I think.
Well, think about it this way too. Like I think a lot of people's concerns with Shi No Numa and Vanguard was that they were just going to copy and paste it and go, here you go. But they didn't. And they made an Easter egg, and they made a Wonder Weapon quest for the WAF, and they made a story, which is crazy to think about. And we talked about chaos, and we talked about our thoughts there, but talking a little bit further about the story that we learn about in Vanguard too, with how Syraxis used to be not Nordicus. Syraxis used to be Cortifex's wife, and that's
Yeah,
why there's
they're
like
really
this weird thing.
I mean, with that is like, and I think it's definitely worth mentioning as well, is that Vanguard, despite it being, you know, a lot more underwhelming compared to Cold War, with the specialists, whatever, I'm sorry, my in
Operators.
game, my the operators, oh no, like the abilities, field upgrades,
Oh, field
what are
upgrade. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like field upgrades, right?
Yeah, field
Again, them
upgrades.
having actual personalities does a lot for it. I feel like there's just there's you feel a bit more connected to the story going on, that you actually matter. I've seen the
Yeah.
complaint that there's too much talking, that there's a lot of
Right.
audio going on, and that I think that's still understandable. But to be honest, I think they're just trying to make up from like what happened in Cold War, where
Right.
maybe there wasn't like a lot going on,
Yeah.
and you some parts you weren't really feeling connected. So maybe they're a bit overcompensating. I think there's a balance that needs to be reached. I think having
Right.
field upgrades that connect to the player like they have here in the future to fix the whole operator issue. So we weren't just playing as like, you know, like random operators that don't have much dialogue to,
I
you know,
mean, well, the
use.
thing is, though, when it comes to personality and it comes to like story and things like that, I think with Vanguard and Cold War the way they are, it's almost like two different beasts here, because with Cold War and the way they did their kind of personality with the operators, they had such a good post-launch story for
Oh yeah.
adding the new operators like Kitsune and Jackal and Naga, all those guys. They had such a good post-launch storyline in
Oh
the
yeah, no,
trailers, and you got to
and
understand like who they
yeah,
were,
yeah.
that when you
No,
played
that
as them,
definitely.
you go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm playing as like this badass coder, or I'm playing as this like badass assassin dude, or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So that's like really cool. And then with
Mhm.
Vanguard, the characters have no personality at all, but when you
Yeah.
get into the lore of the Dark Ether, you are learning
It
more about
saves them.
Belikar and Syraxis and
Yeah.
Verkana and all those entities,
So
which I will always say, and I've said this before, the storyline will forever be the saving grace of Vanguard. If everything else is complete garbage in Vanguard from here on out, the story
mm,
will forever be the saving grace, because we're learning more about the Dark Ether, and we're establishing more about this universe, and there's
yeah.
some new and very intriguing parts to it that I think can help the story progress and help the story have a better world.
Yeah.
So I
And
will forever say that.
and and I'll say some of the visuals in Vanguard are quite nice as well. I think the game
That is
looks
true.
very aesthetically pleasing.
Mm.
Um, More than Cold War. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe it's about, I think the perk machines or the perk fountains look beautiful still.
The
I
perk
think they
rounds are cool.
reminisce I think they reminisce of like the chaos statues. And now that chaos is actually like canon, it's really kind
Hmm.
of funny to think about that. They do look quite similar. Don't Not like in terms of design, but you know, like aesthetic.
I don't know,
Obviously,
man. I don't know. I mean,
you know
maybe those are the maybe those are the not precursor, but maybe those are
the
the afterthought versions of. I don't know. I don't
and
know.
then they thought, oh, these fountains are inconvenient. Let's just make soda machines. So much easier.
I mean, hey, where did this? Okay, I actually don't know this about Dark Ether. You think I should? Where do the perk machines come from in Dark Ether? Like, where
I
does
think
Juggernaut come from and Quick Revive and all that?
I'll Google it
Like,
now.
does the Forsaken put those there? Because, like,
I think they seep through just like how the ray gun does.
oh yeah,
Like, if you get what I mean, but then
they just kind
again,
of like slip through the cracks.
yeah. Let me. Where does Jug come?
Yeah, I don't. I have a feeling that
Well, because they have a different
maybe
design.
that's what I'm saying.
Like
Maybe
the
Zykov, before he became the Forsaken, maybe did something. I don't know. Or like did the Soviets on like accidentally bring them back when they were doing their Ethernaut kind of program?
let's
I
have a
don't
look.
know.
Who created the Dark
Hmm.
Keeper? How long was uh
But anyways, well,
okay.
Cosmic. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, you keep going talking. I'm gonna try and find this because it's very
Okay.
interesting.
But while Cosmic is looking up where the Dark Ether perk machines come from in Black Ops Cold War, um, you know, another thing that came out with Season 4 is Fortune's Keep for Warzone, shifting gears a little bit here. And then we'll get the Dark Ether answer soon. But shifting gears a little bit here, Fortune's Keep in Warzone is not a bad map, honestly. Like it's fun to play in certain aspects, and in other aspects it's not. I think my biggest problem with the map right now is that there's too many corners. Too many corners, too many rooftops, too many flanks, too many areas for rats to hide and then you just like be ratty basically. Um but other than that, I mean, it is a fun map. It's got some side Easter eggs. It's got some fun little hidden areas and whatever. Is it better than Caldera? Yeah. Is it Rebirth Island? No, I still think Rebirth is probably better. But, at the same time, Fortune's Keep, it's not too bad. I really like the side Easter eggs, though, where you can spawn in a zombie at the graveyard and, like, you have to kill this armored zombie. And when you do that, it gives you, like, self-revives and armor satchels and, like, cool stuff like that.
And that's cool.
You got, like, hidden rooms that you have to, like, one of them's, like, you collect wine bottles. And you place the wine bottles on the shelf, and the shelf opens up to, like, a secret room. And you get, like, gold weapons and, like, all this cool stuff. Like, it's really cool. I really like the side stuff on the map.
And they had some fun actually developing it.
They really did, yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, what was it? High Moon, I think, developed this one. Like, what am I trying to say? I'm mumbling. High Moon, I think, was the studio that developed most of this map, if I'm not mistaken. Now I'm gonna look that up.
High Moon, you all know something, right? When you said the name, I don't know how long they've been working on products. I for Activision at least. But when you said High Moon, I got brought back to the good old days of the Transformer games that you used to get because they developed them as well. Let me have a look. High Moon Games.
So okay, it was a obviously it's a collaboration between Raven, right? Because Raven's like one of the main Warzone studios, right? But High Moon, yeah, they they worked on it. They worked on it a lot here.
Yeah,
and I like to see some of these side studios working on other projects. Because for example, Toys for Bob, right? They worked on a new Gulag for Caldera as well. So it's cool seeing some of the side studios get involved more with Call of Duty.
They also worked in Advanced Warfare. Like maybe that's because Raven worked on it and they made Exo Zombies. They might have been responsible for partially that. So yeah, probably don't want that on your work record. But yeah, I mean that's cool, Fo.
So what's the answer to the Dark Ether question? Who got the perk machines?
So it seems like they kind of just seep through. That's what I'm gathering from it anyway.
They just kind of appear, okay.
Yeah, which I mean would kind of make sense, right? But like at the same time, who really like knows? Maybe it's because we're not so far into the story that we don't have full understanding yet. I'm sure when we're in like the third iteration of this game story and you know, we get a lot more answers and stuff. But to be honest, right, you see with things like this, and I think it's a very valid point that a lot of people bring up. A lot of people say that the Zombies Chronicle timeline sheet, in a way, killed a lot of the mystery and lore of zombies. And I think that's definitely understandable. Like, not lore, like mysteries and stuff. And like, because fan theories were a major part of the community for ages. Right. And then with that and Black Ops 4, it explained a lot, which a lot of people are craving for. We wanted answers. We wanted to understand. We want explanations, right? But at the same time, with Mob of the Dead, we know a lot more in that map now than we originally did with the future games, which isn't a bad thing. But
right.
Obviously, back in the day, we all thought it was, like the devil controlling the zombies in that map because had the red eyes.
Right.
And, you know what I mean? Like we had these little fun fan theories, like, oh, this is like completely separate from these other maps.
Right.
Why does like obviously the Weasel. I think it was the Weasel references Nikolai.
Right.
I don't know if that was explained. Was it?
I mean, I'm sure it is explained. I don't remember the answer, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure it is explained in some way.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, I mean, even that. I mean, that one, I'll let them off of that one. That one's fine enough. I would like to know the answer to that. But, and with Cold War and Vanguard, again, since it's a new start to the story, we're left in the dark on a lot of explanations and things. So, not necessarily completely bad. I know Cold War does have a pretty good way of explaining stuff through intel. So,
yeah, man, that's the thing. Cold War with its intel system is actually really underrated. I still think to this day, because they did something interesting with that, where a lot of people were complaining about, oh, well, they put the storyline first in Black Ops 4 and it hurt the gameplay, and that's not good, right? So Treyarch, this is kind of their direct answer to that, where it's like, okay, maybe we did screw that up a little bit, but here's some fun gameplay, and here's some more story for you if you want to take the time to read it in the game. I think that's always a very great thing to have in the game. I've never been the biggest fan of like video game comics, though. Like, I know we've had the Black Ops 4 comics, we've had the Vanguard comics too, where
there was comics for Vanguard.
Yeah, there's Vanguard comics, not for zombies though, but like just for like the campaign and all that, right? Which, like, I understand what they're doing with that. It's like, oh yeah, we want to expand the lore and we want to, right? But like 90% of the people out there aren't going to read the Vanguard comics. 90% of the people out there aren't going to read the Chaos Story comics either. Like, I hate to tell you that, but like, people want to go into the game and like know things about the game right away. Yeah. And they want to understand the story without like having to, you know, well, I got to buy 5 comic books and whatever, right? And I'm not just saying that to be a dick, right? Because I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm saying that because I just know what people want to do. And that's why so many people to begin with are so fucking confused about half of the characters in Vanguard. And that's also part of the reason, might I add, people didn't receive Chaos well at the beginning. Because there were comics that explain more of the backstories of characters and what happened in Morocco with Bruno and Alistair and all of that. So a lot of people were just like, what's happening here? Why Bruno's just a bad guy now? And what's this? And what, why are they here? So people, when they play a game, they just want to be in the game. They want to immerse themselves in it. I understand the mystery and the intrigue has been all part of zombies for a long time. And I understand, comics are for the hardcore fans and all that, right? But when it comes to just like basic story, even for the hardcore fans, it's just kind of one of those things where you go, well, this was kind of a weird choice. It was a really, really weird choice, especially how Chaos started and how everything was just kind of weird at the start. And then Ancient Evil kind of made things a little more interesting. But how everything was just so weird, it just kind of made a lot of people go, well, yeah, this is kind of weird. And it also kind of contributes as to why it wasn't received well, to be honest. So, long story short, an in-game intel system where it's like you earn it, you're playing the game, you're actively collecting it, and then you see the fruit of your labor in the game. That's great. I think that's awesome. But then there's a comic book, like you said, right? There's a comic book for Vanguard.
I didn't even know that.
A lot of people would also say there's a comic book for the Chaos storyline. Yes, there is. Have I read them? No, but they're there.
Yeah, I actually have them, but I never read them. Because I got the collector's edition of Black Ops 4.
Oh, okay.
But like, even for me, it's like, can I be bothered reading? Can I be bothered reading for all this intel?
I mean, the thing is though, is like you basically just perfectly encapsulated what people think about what happened at the beginning of Chaos, right? Like, do I have to read a comic book to understand what's happening in the game? Like, do I really want to do that?
The start. Yeah, I mean, with Chaos as well, it wasn't doing itself any favors because you had 2 maps and we didn't know which map to place first until after. I think the Easter eggs were beaten, or maybe we did have a rough idea. And then we had Dead of the Night come out, which was a prequel to all that, and that was pretty cool. And then we had Ancient Evil, which was a good map.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's almost like you think about it this way too, where it's like you think about the Star Wars movies and how the Star Wars movies, they can honestly kind of, I mean, maybe besides Return of the Jedi, right? But like they can for the most part stand on their own. Like you can kind of gather what's like happening in the movies, and besides the sequels too, but we're not going to talk about that. Like the original 6 movies, you can kind of gather what is like happening overall. I think individually, even though they all have the overarching storyline there. I think if you sit down and you watch Empire Strikes Back, I think you can still gather like, oh, okay, this is happening here with Luke, and he's like training to be a Jedi and all that, and Han Solo. Like you can kind of understand it more, even though it's a direct sequel to A New Hope. I think a lot of people can like pick up a Star Wars movie and go, oh, okay, cool, and then go back and rewatch the other movies, right? But like I said,
No,
maybe not with Return of the Jedi, just because people are gonna be like, why the fuck is this guy in carbonite? What's going on here? Why is this a weird start to the movie? So maybe not with Return of the Jedi per se, but other movies like you can pick
yeah.
up Revenge of the Sith and you can be like, oh okay, that's I know what's happening now
Now,
and whatever.
now, I need to ask you, as a Star Wars fan, I am sure you've seen Obi-Wan Kenobi, the new, at least a clip of what has happened in one of the
I've
most
been
recent
completely
episodes.
spoiled. Yes,
Yes, first of all, that is the coolest thing I've ever watched. I watched the whole scene. Have you watched it all? The fight.
I've seen clips of the fight. Like here's the thing, I know what happens, but I haven't seen like the whole thing. Right?
Now you see at the end. We won't spoil it, right? We'll just
Okay.
keep saying we won't say names or anything. I'm not a big Star Wars
We
fan.
won't say names.
We won't say names, right? I'm not a big Star Wars fan, right?
Okay.
But when Thingy's face, I don't know if you see Thingy's face half like
Yes.
destroyed off,
Right.
and he's like talking and stuff. It's like you can see like the pain on his face,
Mm-hmm.
and something something else to notice as well, because I obviously been fully spoiled, so I'm not going to ruin implications or anything for you. But
Mm-hmm.
there's parts where they're talking, and it's himself talking through it, and his face is blue because of the light of the blue
Right.
lightsaber. But then when he kind of turns back to Thingy, you see the red on his side.
Right. No, I get it, man. It's interesting. It's a very interesting thing because
Yeah,
of
I mean, I think that kind of broke the internet in terms of like entertainment, like for a bit, because it's such like a iconic, like
well, it's
rivalry.
an iconic character number one, and
Yeah,
because of if we're trying to not to spoil it, but you can't not spoil it at this
okay,
point,
just say
right?
it, just say it, just say
Like
it, just say it.
Anakin being who he is and the broken character that he is and who he became is, it's tragic. It's a completely tragic tale. And, you know, but with the Kenobi show, they have a lot of good moments in it. There's definitely some things that kind of maybe are a little questionable when it comes to, maybe potentially breaking the canon of Star Wars, and maybe things aren't exactly lined up
Yeah,
a whole lot. Um, but there are a couple of moments in there that go, okay, like that's not bad.
no,
That's
you
all
let them away with
right.
it. Yeah,
But and here's the thing, right? I know what happens. I've seen everything spoiled, and I don't know. It seems like an okay show. It seems okay. I'd want to like go and
I
watch the whole thing and like get every
yeah,
single moment.
I have heard
Like,
that there has been some pretty meh parts in it as well, and
yeah,
I think it's hard to avoid that, especially with something like Star Wars, because it's trying to give up like obviously this fan base has had like movies and all that from them and comics for like the past how many
right,
years, like 50 years or so,
right.
maybe, if I'm right. So I
Well, I
think
mean,
for
yeah,
them it's
pretty
quite a hard
close.
task for them to like hold up to that. But at the same time, if you're going to make a show about a character so important, you have to kind of like make sure it's constantly, like just like satisfies the viewer.
Well, see, the thing
Um,
is too, it's got to be canonically sound
yeah,
as
yeah, as
well
well. You
too.
you have to you have to be careful because there's so much history as well with this,
Right.
and it can be hard to not step over lines. I mean, in No Way Home, the Spider-Man movie, obviously, as good as it was, there were so many like things broken, like in terms of like plot.
Yeah.
Um, for one example, that I don't see enough people talking about is obviously you got the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, you got Doc Ock. There's one scene where they're on a bridge, right? And I'm going to explain why it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Goblin swinging down. Doc Ock says like Norman because he knows it's Norman, right? So he knows that that's Norman Osborn, right?
Okay.
But in the first movie, um, obviously Goblin dies, kills himself as a glider. Toby or Spider-Man takes him back, and his son Harry knows, right? So
Hmm.
the only people that know that he is Goblin is Spider-Man and his son, right? No one else knows, right? And in Spider-Man 2, there's no reference to him either, and that's the movie where Doc Ock comes in, right?
Okay.
So for some reason, he knows that is Norman. But there's no insinuation that there's anything beforehand. He should know who it is, if you get what I mean. And that is like, it's cool, but it's also like you did your homework.
Breaks.
It breaks so much. Like, has something happened in between events where they know? You know, I mean, it's a weird line. Yeah.
It's like, you know, with certain things that happen in Obi-Wan as well. There are definitely moments that break canon. There are definitely moments that don't make any sense, because when you have source material like Star Wars, you have to no matter what you're doing, if you're going to tie everything in back to the original story, and you have characters like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and all those kind of characters in your show, you have to stay true to the original source material, because of how well crafted the original 6 movies are, in my opinion. And you know, and anything after that has to kind of adhere to that rule and have to adhere to that canon, because if you don't, then you're going to get a situation like, I see a lot of people not liking Obi-Wan. I see a lot of people not liking things like the Book of Boba Fett. I know like nothing about the Book of Boba Fett, but I see people really hate it. But you know, you got to really be careful with that. And you know, the argument there would be like, well, you know, stories change writers retcon things all the time, and you just have to deal with it, and you have to, you know, move on and evolve. And it's like, okay, well, let's break this down a little bit here. Number one, Star Wars is such an established universe and an established 6 movies of the tragedy of the Skywalkers, that anything that you do that you want to directly, like the Disney sequels, 7, 8, 9, anything that you do needs to directly affect or be, anything that happens in those movies has to be done because of what happened before. And you know, things lead up to things from the sequels and whatever, right? So, you know, and we can debate about what the sequels did wrong, and they did a lot of things wrong for sure, but that we're not talking about that. The thing with the writers and like with storylines and how things don't make sense and whatever, right? Star Wars is an established universe, and then I can already hear people saying, well, Jason, you guys are a Zombies podcast, and you talked about earlier how Treyarch is retconning Alistair Rhodes, and you know, you're all for that. Why are you all for that? And I'll tell you why I'm all for that, is because Dark Aether isn't entirely established yet. Dark Aether was still growing. This is still a fresh storyline. This is still something that is still evolving and continuing to grow as we continue to learn more about this storyline. And if they want to bring Chaos back to be a part of this storyline, then they can, because this isn't already established. There is no Zombies episode 4, A New Hope, right? You know, I guess the original Zombies Star Wars trilogy, right, would be the Ether storyline, right? But that's been all tucked away into the Dark Ether, and that's all like, that's in a separate dimension right now. So that's not the storyline right now. This is supposed to be separate from that. Dark Ether is to be separate from that, and it's supposed to be a separate universe from that, separate timelines from that. So that's why I'm fine with this being like retconned and Chaos being Dark Ether. I'm not fine with things in Star Wars being completely retconned and completely destroyed for the sake of spectacle and for the sake of just completely breaking George Lucas's original vision. Because that mastermind created something so special for generations of moviegoers and just sci-fi fans and just entertainment fans and just people to relate to and to love. And you have to, with that kind of responsibility and to uphold those standards set by the creator, you know, thank the maker, it's a huge responsibility for that. Whereas, you know, with Zombies, you do have kind of a responsibility to some of the original source material and in the sense of, okay, Juggernog, that's a staple of Zombies. The ray gun, that's a staple of Zombies, you know, that they have to be included. But it's not the same universe though.
No,
it's not the same universe. And that's the main distinction here. And, you know, we can also talk about how, well, you know, the elixirs were in Black Ops 4 Zombies, and, you know, that wasn't part of the Ether storyline. You know, why are they there? Exactly, right? A lot of things in Zombies are there mainly for gameplay purposes first, and then the story comes afterwards. So the thing when it comes to Chaos potentially being canon, fine. I'm all for it because we're still learning about Dark Ether and we're still learning about what's happening with the demons and demonology and sensible
Yeah.
artifacts coming back and things like that. Star Wars is a completely different beast because you have actual source material to respect.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my piece on it.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, you have to be careful with your canon. That's what it comes down to. You
Yeah.
can't be just changing stuff because it works for the narrative. And I think again, it can be difficult sometimes, and I think there can be just situations where it's like, oh shit, we forgot about this. This happened, but especially with something like as well established as Star Wars, you don't really want to be messing with that because,
Yeah.
well, yourself, it's just kind of like I wouldn't say disrespectful. I mean, if you're acknowledging it and doing it, then yes, it is. In a way, it's kind of like the Halo TV show where the writers for that have never played any of the games. They just read the books. So they're making a TV show about Halo, even though they haven't they don't know like the actual in-game like what's happening. They've read the books and that's it. Where that's like if you're making a show about it, then maybe you should play the games because that's where the main story source is from.
And I
Saying that,
completely
well, they
understand reading
established
the
that
books
it's not
for Halo.
connected
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Like,
like a bit,
yeah.
a bit more maybe going into it would have been good. I don't think that show was received well either.
Yeah, no, the Halo show was not received well at all.
I heard,
And I know the
something
Halo
about
books. I don't know much about Halo's lore, to be honest, but I know Halo's books and the novels that have been written do go really in depth with Spartans and like their abilities and like other wars and whatever that expand on the universe of it. But it still kind of goes back to what I was saying and what you just said about the main thing, the main story and the main everything that everyone experiences in the main games, right? Those books are like side stories that you don't need to read to understand Halo Reach or to understand Halo 3. You know, it's exactly
like
what I was talking about earlier.
Again.
Yeah,
Like
that's exactly what I was saying earlier. The books are just side. You don't need that to enjoy Halo Reach. You don't need that to enjoy Halo 3 or ODST. You can play those games by themselves and understand the story. And that's why Chaos maybe wasn't so received well, because you needed the comics to understand what the fuck you were playing, and people didn't want to do that.
Yeah. So the main point here is game developers, story writers, don't use comic books. Don't use books.
Don't use comic books to be a crutch for explaining what's happening in your game.
Especially if you're just starting off.
That's the main distinction here. I think that we should make that clear, especially if you're starting off, because you can't have a comic book about Bruno from the Chaos storyline, which they do, right? But you know, it's literally Bruno's story, and like, okay, why do we care about Bruno? I don't know. The game just says he was a friend of Alistair Rhodes. Okay, yeah, but like, why is he a friend of Alistair Rhodes, right? Where then it's like, I don't know. Especially when you have something like Treyarch introducing a completely new storyline with Chaos, and how, you know, I mean, here's the thing. You can also make the argument too, where it's like, why is Richtof and Dempsey and Nikolai and all them working together in Shi No Numa and World at War? What connection do they have? We don't know much about the story, right? Actually, we do, because you can go into the fucking game and you can listen to radios, and that's effectively directing your gameplay, and you're actually interacting with the storyline. Whereas then you have the Chaos storyline where it's like, who are these characters? I don't know. Let's go to Egypt or whatever. Not Egypt. Let's go to Greece, and then
let's go to Duran Fang.
Let's go to Duran Fang. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I don't know. It's the thing is, Chaos at the beginning wasn't well received. I think partially because of that, and then partially because people still loved Ether, and people, you know, they wanted to have those maps and experience those maps more. And I don't blame them, to be honest. I mean, the original Ether storyline is badass. I love Richtof and I love Dempsey. I love those guys. But you know, I think, you know, with Chaos being not well received, and also because Black Ops 4 was crashing, and people had issues with that, and you know, it was just kind of it was a perfect storm for Chaos not to be received well. And, you know, I think in hindsight, with where Ancient Evil left us off, I think people were optimistic about Chaos, and then of course it just ended, right? So that's why I think more people are excited that Chaos is coming back, and Chaos is like going to be a thing now in Dark Ether. So I don't know, you know, it's a bit of give and take. It's always a bit of give and take, I think, for something like this. And you know, this is no Star Wars, so we can be a little bit more nuanced with this, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah. But Crazy stuff, man. Really, really crazy stuff happening recently. We talked about Shi No Numa. We talked about the Chaos storyline. Shi No Numa was actually good, has a good
Yes,
Easter egg.
yes.
Chaos. We talked about all that, storytelling and writing, and talked a little bit about Fortune's Keep. Not a whole lot about it, but I guess to end things off here, I'll touch a little bit more on Fortune's Keep and how you have some challenges to complete for the Mercenaries of Fortune event, where you can unlock 2 different gold camos during the event as well, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
cool.
it's actually a really cool reward. The map itself is all right. Golden Plunder seems fun. I have yet to play it, even though I like playing Plunder. I have yet to play it. And then Storage Town is back from Verdansk and Caldera. So,
yeah.
you know, that'll be a crazy drop like it was back in Caldera. I have yet to drop into Caldera since the season started because I've never really liked Caldera too much, to be honest with you. But
yeah,
I will probably jump into it sometime this week on stream playing Golden Plunder or something. But I guess that's really about it. I think that'll do it for this episode, man. What do you have to say before we sign off? Any final thoughts?
Just guys, if you're shitting on Shi No Numa, or if you're shitting on people that like playing it as of the moment, give it a try. If you haven't, okay, very valid point. Don't buy the game just for Shi No Numa, not worth it. But if you have the game, it's sitting in a dusty cupboard or something, you know, the game hasn't been out of its disc, out of its case in like 2 months or so. Take it out, install Vanguard, give it a try. I'm sure you'll be somewhat satisfied with the product.
Yeah,
especially if the last thing you played were any of the objective-based maps. So.
Yeah.
Shi No Numa is a win. I'm glad to see Vanguard going in more of a direction. Unfortunate that it's taken this long, but it's a win in my books. So Vanguard,
for sure.
Come on, a round of applause.
I like the distinction you made there, where it's like if you have the game, play it, right? Because Shi No Numa by itself does not warrant the price tag of this game right now.
Even if it's on sale, you can get the game for half price on Battle.net, because I was looking to buy Modern Warfare for cheap, and that's the only way you can get it, because well, games are on Steam. You can get them for cheaper normally, right? But it being Battle.net, there's no alternative to get it for a better price. So, don't pay the $24 or however much it is. It's still not worth it at that price. I mean, if you're desperate, go for it, because there's another round-based map. But I would probably hold your horses and just wait for Modern Warfare 2, to be honest. Or go back, play Cold War. You can buy Cold War at any old game.
War.
go to GameStop, go to CEX, go to any game shop in your area. You can probably find Cold War for about $10, $15. And you get 4 zombie maps, you get an open world zombie mode, you get Onslaught, and a bunch of other modes as well, and you have a whole lot of grinding you can do. Buy that instead.
There you go. Well said. And I actually do have some final thoughts before we end off today too, for once. Is we had a very interesting weekend for the Zombies community. We had a really triumphant weekend for the Zombies community, I believe, with Zombies for Charity 4. The community raised over $5,000 for the Center for Suicide Awareness, which is insane. Had the opportunity to cast the event with Greg FPS, and it was fun. Had some interesting moments there. We had some Dead Ops challenges, some Onslaught challenges, bunch of Easter egg speed runs and stuff. So it was a good time. So if you guys want to check that out, I think the link is still active.
I think they're keeping it as active for as long as possible.
I think it might be the same. Yeah, like how we do with the stack up stuff. And like our link is active to the end of 2022. I think their link might have the same thing. So there's that. If you guys want to donate to the Center for Suicide Awareness, and it was a fun event. It was fun. I think everything was on Cold War Zombies too, so it's always fun seeing Cold War gameplay, and it was actually really fun seeing some Dead Ops gameplay as well, which Dead Ops doesn't get enough love, but so there's that as well. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll leave the link to the Zombies for Charity channel in the description as well if you guys want to check them out. So I guess with that said, everybody, once again, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this episode of the Division Z podcast and you'd like to see more, leave a like, subscribe to the Division Z channel, and check out both of our links down below in the description so you stay up to date with everything that we do. And with that said, have a fantastic rest of your day or night, depending on where you are in this crazy world. We'll see you guys on another episode of the Division Z podcast very soon. And we're going to go play some Shi No Numa. We're going to do the Easter egg. So we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.